Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I propose we start on time in the hopes of finishing on time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being with us. In addition to being a very good-looking audience, you also have shown great wisdom in attending this panel in particular. So congratulations to you. We are going to have a very interesting session this afternoon on climate change and try to dig in a little bit on where we are at this precise moment. Before we do so, I'd just like to note that we are the guests of the organizing association, ECOGER, and the EU-funded Sustainable Energy Connectivity in Central Asia project. And the association brings together about 30 organizations and different businesses, all in the energy and energy-related domain. Its mission is to foster dialogue between industry, government, and society to strike a balance between economic growth and environmental sustainability. So, surprise, surprise, this is the conversation where we are going to talk about that nexus. Today's session is part of the EU-Kazakhstan Sustainable Energy Days. And our focus really is, we are 10 years after the Paris Climate Agreement. There's been some progress, some nations have made progress, others have made much less progress. And what I think 10 years ago seemed like a fairly linear path, even if it was going to be uphill, in many ways feels a little bit more like wandering around in the valley before we can figure out how to end up at the top of the mountain. Many countries have begun to understand that their climate path involves social justice, involves questions of energy, involves questions of infrastructure. And we are engaged in a much more textured, difficult path. So, for your benefit, we have gathered together a very impressive panel. These are the main players, as it were. Institutions like the European Investment Bank, IRENA, the Renewable Energy Agency, forums like COP29, and national actors like Kazakhstan. Welcome, Vice Minister. And also faith and religion elements. We're going to have one of the representatives, the Secretary General of the Muslim Elders League here. We are going to begin our session with some words of introduction, some remarks by Vice President Kyriakos Kakouris of the European Investment Bank. He oversees major climate and cohesion portfolios. He has decades of experience in finance and international development. And today he brings a critical perspective to our discussion, namely how global and regional financial institutions can better support climate ambition through targeted investment. We're going to invite him to give his remarks, and then we're going to follow it up with a conversation between the panelists, taking a first round of questions at the global level about their perspectives on climate innovation now in 2025. And then with time and an eye on the clock, we'll do a second round where we begin to talk about the region, Central Asia, Kazakhstan, in a more focused manner. So please join me with a round of applause in welcoming Vice President to the forum.
Good afternoon. Sorry. Thank you very much for the applause and the welcome. Actually, it's my honor to be here, and let me express my gratitude for the opportunity to convene and discuss climate change. It is an honor to represent the European Investment Bank and the European Union's strategic commitment on climate action. Our presence today in Astana is a proof that we all recognize that win-win partnerships are not just aspirational, they are essential. They drive progress, foster resilience, create lasting impact. We must work together to tackle the global challenges we all face. Nowhere is this collaboration more critical than in international climate action. Climate change does not recognize borders, and its effects are felt globally. To secure a livable planet for future generations and to drive competitiveness and security, we must collectively accelerate in green investments worldwide ensuring that no region is left behind. Europe is a leader in climate diplomacy and green technologies. At COP29, the EU reaffirmed its commitment to climate neutrality by 2050. However, the European Union will not succeed in tackling the climate crisis when it only invests in Europe alone, because more than 90% of global CO2 emissions are happening outside Europe. The European Union's financial arm, the European Investment Bank Group, is a member of the Multilateral and Development Banks family, and we work closely with the European Commission and other partners from public and private sectors globally to mobilize green finance at scale. The EIB Group is a world leader in green finance and contributed substantially to the EU taxonomy and the draft EU green bonds standard. Global definition and standards are key to mobilizing private investment in support of climate action. They provide investors with transparency and avoid greenwashing. EIB issued the world's first green bond in 2007 and phased out financing of fossil fuel oils in 2019. In 2020, Climate Bank Roadmap transformed the EIB Group into the Climate Bank and aligned all our activities with Paris Climate Agreement. The European Investment Bank will stay in course and keep its role as a climate bank for climate mitigation, climate adaptation, and environmental sustainability, leaving no one behind. Innovation is critical in driving the green transition with different sectors at various stages of development. Mature technologies, wind and solar power are ready for large-scale deployment. Emerging technologies, areas like electric vehicles are becoming increasingly competitive. Deep tech, microelectronics, advanced materials, quantum technologies, artificial intelligence, and blockchain are emerging as enablers of both digital and green transitions. To accelerate international climate action, partnerships are key, and multilateral development banks have an important role to play. At COP29 in Baku, MDBs collectively stepped up and announced ambitious climate financing for low and middle income countries of 120 billion euros by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, the European Union remains a committed partner to the region, advancing climate action and the green transitions through global getaway strategy and the Team Europe approach. The global getaway strategy will mobilize up to 300 million euros globally by 2027. We want to work with our partners in Central Asia to accelerate the green transition and to support prosperity across the region. In Central Asia, EIB supports the EU Global Getaway Strategy with focuses on water, energy, critical raw materials, transport, and digital connectivity. In close cooperation with the European Commission and countries in the region, we are supporting projects that drive sustainable growth. Let me share concrete examples, starting here in Kazakhstan. Last March, here in Astana, we announced 200 million euros loan agreement with the Development Bank of Kazakhstan to support investments in transport infrastructure and sustainable energy. This initiative is pivotal in Kazakhstan's energy diversification strategy, reducing reliance on fossil fuels and accelerating the transition to clean, sustainable power sources. EIB committed to the Vienna Communiqué supporting clean energy transition and efficient water management in Kyrgyzstan and across Central Asia. Last but not least, thanks to a guarantee from the European Commission, we provided 150 million euros for high voltage energy infrastructure as part of a Kaza 1000 regional electricity scheme. This project will connect Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan and Pakistan, facilitating sustainable trade in renewable electricity and maximizing the region's hydropower potential. The Team Europe initiative on water, energy and climate change, launched in 2022 and now fully operational, also demonstrates our commitments. It brings together EU member states, European Investment Bank, and EBRD. It is underpinned by €20 million grant project which supports the Secretariat and provides technical assistance on regional water and energy cooperation. Going forward, we should not lose the momentum to tackle the climate change, and in Europe we see strong potential for deeper cooperation in Central Asia and Kazakhstan in several areas. First, renewable energy, an area where the EU excels in technology and industrial expertise. We welcome the progress made, for example, in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan on the financing of renewable energy projects, which have led to a strong increase in these projects in the past years. But more is necessary in terms of financial and energy sector reforms. The United Nations FCC Climate Finance Access and Mobilization Strategy for Central Asia from 2023 underlines that not all countries in the region have utilized the range of climate finance instruments and sources available. Insufficient capacity in developing and implementing climate change projects was noted as the main barrier with respect to access. Furthermore, capital costs are often significantly higher among Central Asia and South Caucasus countries than among other developed countries, which disadvantages the region when implementing capital-intensive projects such as renewable energy projects. The energy markets have to be ready to welcome such projects, and an important development will be the necessary upgrade of energy grids in Central Asia to face the increased amount of renewables. And on this, I would like really to advise the country to look in Europe. In Europe, we did advance a lot in renewables, but our grids are not ready to absorb them. So the development of renewables and the grids must go hand in hand. We also recognize the importance of sustainable transport, key to addressing climate impact and enhancing the resilience of transport networks. What benefits the environment also drives economic growth and prosperity. This principle guides our efforts within Team Europe. A continued focus should be on strengthening regional organizations such as International Fund for Saving the Aral Sea to improve transboundary water governance and to include the energy nexus. Investing in sustainable water energy infrastructure, enhancing climate adaptation measures by advancing the digitalization of water resource management and developing robust early warning systems. Improving efficiency in the water and energy systems will be of key importance. The European Union can help with advice and technology, but the measures have to be implemented by countries in Central Asia. In conclusion, I believe there is no doubt that the EU and its member states offer extensive experience in climate action and green transition, which can serve as a valuable reference for Kazakhstan and the other countries in the region, Central Asia. We remain a reliable partner and encourage deeper cooperation with Kazakhstan for a sustainable and resilient future. Together, through strategic investments, innovation, and shared commitment, we can build a greener, more resilient future for Central Asia, for Europe, and for the world. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Kakouris, for setting us off with a strong brief on where we stand and on the EIB's sort of view of it. And I think it's a useful point. We're 10 years in. The energy expert Daniel Yergin says we're not engaged much in an energy transition. We're engaged in an energy addition, an energy augmentation. And this is something that only we've come to understand in the last few years. And I think it's helpful to think of this. Yes, renewables are accelerating, but emissions have not decreased. Actually, energy needs are increasing themselves for developmental purposes. China, India are more than 50% of the new additional energy requirements in the coming years for very solid developmental reasons. Kazakhstan is the same. And at the same time, the emergence of new technologies, high compute, data models, AI, are all beginning to stress our existing energy needs in a way that even we did not previously understand. The rest of this hour will be devoted. We are going to ask Vice Minister to ask if he has any words of welcome for us. I think he wanted to very briefly welcome his fellow panelists. And then I'm going to launch us into a couple of questions where we want to get at the bottom of what are the different elements of what needs to happen and change in order for us to continue to make progress towards these big goals. Vice Minister, if you would like to say a few words of welcome. Thank you. From there.
Құрметті қатысушылар, құрметті әріптестер, бүгін үлкен
distinguished colleagues, it's a very important event today. I would like to share our achievements of our countries and Ministry of Environment with our colleagues who are here in the hall, in the audience, and in the panel. So it seems that the environmental issues are really important and relevant, and the sessions on environment topics are all at the same time. On behalf of the Ministry of Environment and Mineral Resources, I welcome you all here at this session. I would like to thank our key partners and organizers, organization ECCA and UN project SECCA. So we are talking about the challenges and actions, but we focus on the stable future. That's symbolic since this year we celebrate the 10th anniversary from the Paris Agreement signing, which formed the new era of the solidarity in environmental issues. Kazakhstan, one of the first who decided to follow this way. So we made a number of steps that prove our commitment to these objectives. I can say that we have in 2020 the commitment expressed by the president of the country to the environmental issues. So the objective to reduce the greenhouse gases for 15% was approved, and also a strategy to reach carbon neutrality by 2060 was adopted. So we work on decarbonization, improvement of agriculture and other industries. We have to mention that we reached a significant progress in renewable energy sources. By 2024, the share of renewables extended to 6%. By 2030, this figure should reach 15%. The full-scale programs are implemented to support green innovations and green entrepreneurship. Kazakhstan became an active participant on methane, and within the cooperation on methane, we regulate methane emissions. Due to tight cooperation with international partners, including European Union, Kazakhstan has access to advanced technologies and best practices on decarbonization. This cooperation is especially important in the framework of geopolitical instability, when climate stability plays an important role. Dear colleagues, dear friends, in this regard, I would like to wish you all, those who are at this session, to conduct this session fruitfully, receive necessary information, and I think that the experience and ideas that are adopted here will become a contribution to the green future, decarbonized future. I support the comments of the previous speaker, and we will try to answer all the possible questions raised today, and I hope that all the colleagues will have informative, fruitful reports and presentations and information that is useful for all of us. Thank you.
Vice Minister Oshurbayev, again for your warm welcome, for reminding us where Kazakhstan's goals are at currently, and again for setting the bar on how countries go through the process of setting their climate goals and then get to the crux of our conversation, which is the difficult business of implementation. So, with your permission and with the consent of the panelists, we will now sort of have a guided conversation answering some questions around these key elements of implementation. And I will begin with Lord Francis Maud. Lord Francis is a long-serving British statesman and reformer. He was a Minister of the Cabinet Office. He spearheaded major efficiency reforms and digital transformation across the UK government. He has since advised numerous governments on institutional modernization. His insights today speak directly to the challenge of governance reform as a tool for effective climate action. And perhaps this is an important place to begin. The challenge of the net zero transition is a challenge of government and for government, and I think it's become clear that it's, in business parlance, a C-suite issue, a cabinet portfolio, where it used to be relegated to a given ministry, a sectoral approach. I think we're understanding now that it requires more than that. Lord Maud, how can governments reform their own institutions better for this challenge? What can you share with us in terms of a view on that? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for assistance from my right-hand side there. So it's exactly the right question. First of all, thank you to the AIF for inviting us here. A spectacularly successful event and really a really important subject to discuss here. And the question you're asking, Josh, is completely right. I spent a long time in government, starting as a minister in the UK back in the 1980s. I was a very young minister then, I stress. The lesson I've learned from that is that working out what to do is relatively the easier part of being in government. It's the how that's hard. It's making it happen. Working out what to do is only 10% of the challenge. 90% is how do you make it happen? And if you do make it happen, how do you make it sustainable? How do you make it stick? Because when you make changes in government, often the jungle grows back very quickly. And the thing I think we've all learned about the necessity for effective action on climate is that it is, exactly as you say, it's a whole of government activity. I was very struck until relatively recently, climate action was seen as something for energy ministries, environment ministries. And I remember a conversation with one of the development banks, the Inter-American Development Bank, covering kind of the Americas and the Caribbean, who said, how do we get finance ministries involved? Because at the moment, typically they're not engaged with this subject. And indeed, the IADB engaged us, my firm FMA, to do some work for a major government in Latin America on how do you factor in climate risk into fiscal planning, because it simply wasn't being done. And we've done that in there. We've been engaged by the World Bank in an African country, starting work on this quite soon, and it's crucial. It just makes the point that this is a whole of government activity. I remember the last government in the UK, frustrated by the silo, the difficulties of the silo mentality, the silo culture, which pervades most governments. Most governments are the prisoners of the silo structure. And so they kind of moved the boundaries around to create a department, a ministry of energy and net zero. But all that did was create different boundaries in a different place. And the truth is that effective action on climate for a government isn't just about energy. It isn't just about the environment. It isn't just about transport. It's about construction. It's about how you do public services and a whole range of things that are a whole of government activity. And so the essential necessity is to find ways of kind of creating structures that cut across the whole government, horizontal structures. When it came to doing government efficiency, which has a real bearing on climate action, on net zero, because if governments spend their money better, less wastefully, then they will be, almost by definition, creating less carbon. And to do that, you have to run it from the center of government. You have to have the ability to look horizontally at the functions that run right across government. Instead of them being sliced up into the verticals, you have to look at the horizontals. And exactly the same applies to climate action. And if we're going to make this work, make this effective, then we're going to have to rethink how we look at governments and start to break down the silo culture, the vertical culture, and do what successful businesses do, which is operate a matrix where you have your verticals, for sure, but you have the horizontals as well, with real ability to see through from the center right through what's happening in government and see it in real time. Because at the center of governments, and I've been there, I know this, otherwise you only find out what's happening after the event, often when it's too late to intervene to put things right. So reimagine government, and climate provides the urgency, as well as efficiency provides the urgency behind that.
Thank you. You heard it here first, so a standing item. It's a very important point. I think it should be a standing item on the cabinet meeting weekly from an integrated government perspective. Nothing less will work. Ladies and gentlemen, I now turn to Judge Mohammed Abdel Salam. Marhaba alaikum. He is the Secretary General of the Muslim Council of Elders and a distinguished advocate for interfaith dialogue and ethical leadership. He was a key author of the 2019 document on human fraternity. For those who know, this was a document that was signed by Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar University. His work emphasizes the role of moral and spiritual values in addressing global challenges, including climate change. We know that governments must address climate change, but we know that governments respond to people. So we're reversing the question now, taking a social angle. And I think, Secretary General Abdel Salam, I think we would benefit from your view on how faith-based principles can be mobilized now in support of climate goals, and what can religious leaders, community leaders offer to help advance the work in government and elsewhere. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone have a headset for the translation. Allow me please to speak Arabic. Thank you very much for the question. Thanks for your participation. It's very important what you said. My name is Mohammed Abdel Salam. هذا السؤال مهم للغاية. الحديث عن دور
When we talk about the role of religion leaders and the role of religion as a whole to strengthen the actions and support of all these initiatives, we mean that it is all important. Please allow me to make an example. This example is modern and old. So this is a historical document about the human brothership, which was signed by the Pope Francis, who died recently, and Imam Al-Azhar signed also this document regarding the human brothership about the better future of the human being. So this is a historical document in the history of Christianity and Islam. This document confirmed the attention which is paid to the environment, to the planet, and emphasizes the attention to sustainable development. We need to have the sustainable growth, sustainable development and growth. For the humanity, this is a historical document which addresses all the population in the world. This is a religious discourse which is not only about Christians or Muslims, but it is addressed to all the people who could construct a better world, a better future for our children and for the next generations. In reality, if we think about this and take into account these challenges that the population of all the countries face now, the Council of Muslim Leaders suggests initiative. The Council proposed this new idea to have inside the conference of the United Nations to have a religion pavilion, and this pavilion will start its work in Dubai at the conference of the parties 28 in Dubai. So this pavilion started its work there, and all of the leaders talk about the climate issue, about the religious issues, about the responsibility of religious leaders. This is a challenge which is in front of all the people in the world. The result of the first meeting of the Council was to elevate the level of these issues, because more than 4,000 articles were published all around the world about this meeting, which pronounced the voice of all the religious leaders, and they are responsible in the framework of these challenges. And the responsibility is not only belongs to the leaders and financial funds, but this is a responsibility of the governors, of the politicians. So the role of religion leaders is very important. And in reality, in Azerbaijan, in Conference of the Parties 29, this experience was repeated, and it had a good reaction, a good feedback from the government of Azerbaijan. It attracted attention of all the leaders who participated in the Conference of the Parties 29, and the voice of religion, the voice of religious symbols started to play an important role. And a lot of leaders, Catholic leaders, Russian church, supported this idea, and this solidarity, this cooperation of religion leaders was sustained. I would like to mention the experience of Kazakhstan, because Kazakhstan is a special country in Central Asia which preserves the soft power in interreligious dialogue. You know that more than 20 years ago, the meeting of the religious leaders started to be conducted, and I had an opportunity to participate in that meetings of world and international religious leaders. And last year, I became an ambassador of goodwill of this meeting. So Kazakhstan plays an important role and pays a lot of attention to this interreligious dialogue in order to support this work. And the climate issues are also among all these issues that are raised. We have an important initiative which we conduct with Vatican, which is related to the moral and artificial intelligence. I believe that the religion and belief is not only within the church, but religion should be the source of support and assistance of everything which lives. So the religion should not limit the people, but support the people. All the religions are to create a humanity happy.
Shukran Kathir. Thank you, sir. In the interest of time, there's a lot of, I have many follow-up questions myself, but I think I will proceed with my next question by introducing our next speaker. Francesco La Camera is the Director General of the International Renewable Energy Agency. He has spent decades advancing the renewable energy transition at both national and international levels, and he has led global partnerships to drive innovation and investment in clean energy. If I can use the expression, he's the man in the wheelhouse of the ship. The question of renewables is critical to the transition, and we are lucky to have him with us here today. I think, given that, I'd like to ask you your view, 10 years in. What are the key enablers of green innovation at scale? Because I think the question of scale, of the ability to do this at the scale needed, is becoming more and more acute. How do we ensure there are and that these technologies are accessible to all countries, is I think the related one as a matter of scale. Over to you, sir.
Thanks for your question, and thanks for having Arina here with you today in this panel and the Astana International Forum. So first of all, is where we are. Last year, we have installed globally 585 gigawatts of renewable energy in the world. This means that last year, 94% of all power capacity installed was renewables. And just because renewables is the most competitive way to produce electricity today in large part of the world. So what does mean this? First of all, means that this process is a process that has shown along the year that is irreversible and unstoppable. So what is clear that the direction travel is to have we are going to a new energy system that will be largely dominated by renewables. So what is a challenge today, and I come to your question, is the scale and the speed of this transformation. Because it could happen in many, many decades. The problem is that we have to face the menace of climate change. So going to a clean energy system should be done in a shorter term. So how we can increase the scale and the speed of this transformation? Arina's work is concentrated in trying to understand what are the structural barriers that make the transition not going fast as needed to confront the climate change challenges. In our point of view, there are three main structural barriers that apply around the world and also in this region. The first one is that the way we see more renewable installed capacity, so more variable source of electricity. It means that we need to balance this presence. So we need to have an infrastructure that allows for moving the electrons and the molecule from one part to another in the country and in the relations with the countries. So the first barrier is the lack of grids that are interconnected, flexible and balanced. So this is the first barrier. The second is the legal environment yet, still, because the old system, centralized based on fossil fuel, was sustained by a number of norms that apply domestically and internationally. So if we are able to trade gas, oil, and have in our house in a part of the world, it's because there was the infrastructure to make that possible, and there was the legal environment for it. Now the market is still designed for the old system. It's not designed for renewables. The main example that I can do to you is present to you is that usually the price of the electricity, of the energy, is based on the cost marginal rule. This is how the competitive market more or less works. Yeah. But this doesn't work for renewables, because renewables have a high cost at the beginning, at the start, and then they have very low cost in the maintenance and in the exercise. So we need to work for a market that is based on long-term contract. So this has to be changed, to be taken into mind when we build our legislation and design our market. We need market that, one, there's interconnectivity, also market that works. So we need to have an energy market that is based on long-term contract, and allow for electron to be exchanged domestically, also out of the border, especially in a region like this. The third element is based on the skills. So if you talk with companies, very often they will say that they were ready to invest more, but they have not the professionals, the workforce for that. So it's very important to retrain all the workers that are transit from the old fossil fuel system to the new one. So we need new capacity. We need new professionals. Also the university CV should be built in a way that it should fit with the new system that's coming. So if you can say in 3 words, infrastructure, legal environment market design, human capacity. Also, if you look at the third as an example, what's happened in Spain a few weeks ago, sometimes systems like renewables need to be surely more resilient to shock. So it's the best way to provide energy security. They are clean, competitive, but they are a distributive energy system. So it's less easy to manage than the old one. So we need professionality that may be ready to function also in case of emergency. And I think that the lessons that we are learning will be teach us how to do better in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think your remarks are a reminder that the last time the world engaged in an energy transition, which was the energy transition into oil and gas, it took over a century. And in a way, we're trying to do this new transition in 35 years. That's the goal. And one does not easily do a century's worth of work in 35 years. I would now like to, we've talked financing, we've talked government, we've talked values, we've talked renewable energy and the sort of the infrastructural grid. I'd like to turn, if I can, for a minute to diplomacy, to international cooperation. My next guest is Mukhtar Babayev. His Excellency Mukhtar Babayev was president of COP29 and is currently the Minister of Ecology and Natural Resources of Azerbaijan. He brings to this panel unique insights on the difficulties of climate diplomacy right now, having helped to lead the global climate community through one of the most complex negotiation environments in recent years, including last year's negotiations on climate financing. From your perspective, sir, if I may, how can we shift the focus? You and I were talking before the session. How can we shift the focus into higher gear, even in the perspective of climate diplomacy?
Thank you, Mr. Lincoln. Dear friends, dear colleagues, first of all, thanks to our host, dear Mansour. Thank you very much to gather all of us together. Astana Forum is one of the biggest forums in the region, in the world, and I think it is so important, and the Kazakhstani side organized and provide us with all necessary conditions to have the interesting discussions, to deliver our messages, priorities, and to have the also negotiations here. We discussed before our panel, we already started to discuss how the challengeable time will lead now. And this year especially, a lot of new challenges, new risks, new things come to the agenda of the older world community, different countries. And now it's a good chance and good opportunity for the world to demonstrate solidarity, to demonstrate mobilization, to continue and support multilateral process. As a COP29 presidency, we have always been very clear and delivered our priorities and messages from the beginning. We need an inclusive process for inclusive outcomes. Everyone deserved a platform to have their voice heard. Everyone needed to have their priorities addressed. So we worked intensively to build bridges and find fair and shared solutions, because we believe that this was essential to making climate action work for all. Together we delivered historic outcomes. They reflected the inputs and priorities of communities around the world. We made sure that Baku Finance Goal promoted inclusion, and it promoted benefits to vulnerable communities such as children and youth, people with disabilities, migrants, refugees and others. We set environmental and human rights safeguards for UN carbon markets. We addressed the concerns of women's organizations and extended the Lima work program on gender for 10 years. And we established the Baku Work Plan for indigenous peoples and local communities. We also made inclusivity a key part of the COP29 presidency's action agenda. Our declarations and pledges put a spotlight on the need to share the benefits of climate action for everyone. This included the COP29 declaration on green digital action that promoted digital accessibility and literacy. And the COP29 initiatives work to support and empower local communities such as farmers or the victims of the conflicts. This year, every country has an opportunity and responsibility to make climate action work for all. All countries must submit their next generation of climate plans. We just discussed it on the previous session. These plans will set out how we will scale up the clean energy systems of the future, adapt to a warming world, and underpin everything with robust transparency. They are an unmissable opportunity to set out new visions for the new pathways forward. As COP29 presidency, we have made sure that the whole UN system is ready to support countries to prepare their plans. We have also brought countries together to share expertise on how to make these plans the best versions that they can be. First, good plans are based on comprehensive consultation. This will be critical as we aim to address all economic sectors. And we need to consult with all communities. To highlight just one group, the COP29 Youth Climate Champion, Ms. Leila Hassanova, has been campaigning to make sure that countries consult with youth. This is because young people will be the most impacted by climate change, and they are most needed to deliver the solutions. Second, climate plans should not be standalone document. They need to be integrated into long-term priorities and national development strategies, because when many departments have a stake in the outcomes, these plans have a greater chance of success. And finally, they need to be supported by robust and consistent policy-making frameworks. We have seen examples of national climate committees that have kept countries focused on their climate objectives. And we have seen other cases of how climate objectives can be mainstreamed in the work of all policy-making bodies. If we get this right, this plan can be green light for green investment. Setting target and timelines, highlighting priority sectors, and demonstrating government commitment will send strong signals to markets and to donors. These signals will help attract and guide investment. This is the opportunity that we want to help everyone take. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, dear colleagues, these plans are a chance to set a new course forward. If done well, they can help drive innovation. They can lead so far fair outcomes, and they can be guides for sustainable development. In Baku, we showed how we can deliver when we take an inclusive approach. And as the COP29 presidency, we will continue to work with everyone to make sure that climate action works for everyone. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Unfortunately, we don't have the time. I would like to carry on the conversation for an extra hour or two, but I think we have another 10 minutes to go. And so if I may, in the remaining 10 minutes to perhaps ask if any of you in a minute or two would like to bring the discussion down to our region here and to Kazakhstan. In a sense, is there something in your specific area of responsibility or expertise? If you had one thing to say, let's pretend for a minute that the audience isn't here and we're all engaged in a conversation. If there were one thing that we can learn from the experience, because the whole world is going through this process at the same time. Everyone is learning different things. In my own country, here in Kazakhstan, across Europe, Latin America, the realities are different. If there were one item you could say, this is a lesson that we have from the world that we see out there that is applicable to the region or to the country, or conversely, this is our experience here, and our experience here we think may be relevant out there. I would like to know maybe if we can, I see Lord Maud would like to begin, and then if you would just signal to me and I will give you you're next. All right. Lord Maud, you have the floor first.
Thank you. Very quick point, and thank you to all these other speakers. Lots of such good points made. I've never accepted that what some people argue, that there's a choice to be made between growth and climate action. These things should be complementary. And in a country like Kazakhstan, which is engaged on a process of economic diversification, then the two things absolutely go hand in hand. Kazakhstan is richly endowed with the resources, as well as all the natural resources we know about, minerals, etc., and agriculture, hugely endowed with resources for renewables, better than almost any country in the world, wind and sun. And for this to be actually a driver of economic diversification is a massive opportunity. We're already seeing this with the move to make Kazakhstan a center for crypto mining, but also to support the huge electricity demands made by big data centers, supporting quantum computing and AI. These are big opportunities for a country like Kazakhstan, but what it needs is a very comprehensive and hard-edged investment plan which identifies real investable opportunities. And just to pick up the point that Kyriakos made in his remarks at the beginning, to be able to access those sources, all the sources of investment, which can support the program underway already to modernize utilities and to modernize public services like district heating schemes, but to combine that with the climate action, the move to net zero, is a huge opportunity for Kazakhstan.
Thank you very much. Vice Minister Osherbayev, I think you had your hand up.
Спасибо.
Thank you for the final word. I would like to thank all my colleagues, all the speakers, those who shared the information that I also mentioned in my welcome speech. I would like to thank Mr. Lord for those words that were mentioned to work together within all these governments. Of course, this is an important issue. Kazakhstan makes work to develop new documents on investment plan, and regarding the investment plan programs, we will have an investment plan. And I would like to mention the comment of Mr. Salam that the role of religious leaders is important. Regarding the question of our moderator, I would like to say my comments. Today I mentioned that Kazakhstan is a leader in Central Asia for the emission system. Together with our colleagues from Azerbaijan, we conducted a number of events where we shared our experience and skills developed over the past years. And I think that the platform of Baku meeting in last year, Conference of the Party 29, was important platform, and we all felt the support of all the countries. So thank you very much for their participation.
Director General La Camera, you were next.
Thank you. Very briefly, it's also for the main reason I'm here is to promote our initiative that is called Accelerated Renewable Energy Partnership for Central Asia country. This is called APRECA, that we have been lucky to launch in Baku on the occasion of COP29. This is an initiative that where we try to rewrite the way international cooperation works. We are in contact with all of your governments to build a plan that may also, after that, have to find the funding for it. Everyone can present project of renewables. Anyone can present project grids to ARENA. We have our financial platform. We have our partners. One of the cases that we can showcase is that just in one of the countries here in Uzbekistan, we have been able to put together the ASEAN Infrastructure Investment Bank, Mazda, Swiss Re, the European Investment Bank, for a 900 megawatt project in 3 different locations for solar power. This is something that could be done here. I will meet your Minister of Energy later today to see how Kazakhstan could be part of one of the major parts of our initiative. So try to look at our website. If there is any investor that wants to put money, ask us to leverage other resources to make things happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Vice President Kakouris.
Thank you, Dr. Likon. I will be very brief, and just to say that as a European Investment Bank, we fully support Kazakhstan's plans to sustainability reduce emissions. And we do already mention it and noted that it's one of the few countries that has a long-term strategy to achieving carbon neutrality by 2060 as it announced. What we have is climate change. It's not just a government issue. I mean, it's Lord Francis really mentioned it. I have a lot of experience because I'm coming from a civil service in my country, Cyprus, and also in my current position, I meet a lot of environmental ministers who are really asking me, ask the Minister of Finance really to support us on these plans. So it's an effort that we have to put together, and in MDBs, multinational development banks, to leverage the private sector and combine public funds with the private sector, with constitutional financing from EU or from other sources in order to achieve our targets. We cannot do it alone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is the recurring theme. We cannot do it alone. I think at every level and every corner. I would like to give a final chance to Judge Abdel Salam, if he would like to say anything else.
Yes, thank you very much for all participations today. What I want to say clearly, if we need real sustainability, we should always focus with the youth. The next generation is the future. And I invite all of you, my friends, all the biggest companies like IRENA, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, all the people, they are very care really about the future, to focus with youth. Youth and the children is the real future, if we need a better future for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Minister Babayev, the final word is yours, if you would like.
Thanks. Very short. 2 things. First, it's for us this year, it's a good chance to prevent step back from our climate negotiations, results of climate outcomes. The second, next year, climate forum in Kazakhstan, 2026. We wish, first of all, success, and we hope that Kazakhstan will continue to build the trust between the countries, between the parties, and will have the successful COP for the solidarity for a green world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we started at 2:16. We have ended at 3:16. Please join me in thanking our panelists for a wonderful time. Thank you very much. Have a nice afternoon.
Okay. I know you're very busy. Yes. Give it another copy. I just want to say no. We can speak. Okay. All right.